Welcome to this episode of The People Dividend. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and I am absolutely thrilled to have in our virtual studio today, Martin Lespérance. And I know this is going to be wonderful for everyone in the audience, for our loyal listeners, and for those who are new to The People Dividend, because Martin is, he has inspiration written all over him. And he is an inspiring speaker, trainer, and coach. Let me tell you a little bit about Martin Lespérance before I ask him to say a few words about himself. He is the recipient of the Inspirational Speaker of the Year Award at SpeakerSlam 2023. And you know, we're only in the beginning of the year, 2024, so maybe we'll see him once again with that award at SpeakerSlam. He's a dynamic force dedicated to inspiring positive action, happiness, and motivation in individuals and organizations. And what could really be more wonderful than that message to inspire inspiration among within ourselves and among our coworkers? Throughout his diverse career, Martin has gained an abundance of experience in roles from coaching, teaching, to advising governmental bodies and spearheading innovative product launches. In his 9 years at Essilor Canada as national director, Martin excelled in training, trade marketing, and sales, showcasing his commitment and passion for transformative change. And that's a topic that we'll explore today. He has an infectious personality, a unique speaking style, and his global influence extends beyond Canada. And everyone in the audience, as you read the show notes for today, will figure out that he is a Canadian because his website is martinlesperance.ca. So that's always a dead giveaway for our Canadian guests. But he's done keynotes in China, Thailand, throughout Western Europe, and in the US. And he's got a really great message on leadership, teamwork, communication, innovation, and resilience, all topics so near and dear to the hearts of many in our listening audience relative to engagement. So if you're interested later in him keynoting, and it's all about this inspire philosophy. So I'm super excited once again to have Martin Lespérance as our guest today. And just as a side note, he's a father of four, a supportive husband, and he really embodies his philosophy of making a meaningful difference in the world. So, Martin Lespérance, I'm so delighted to have you as a guest today on the People Dividend. Why don't you tell our audience a few words about yourself, Martin?
Thank you so much, Mike. What an intro! I'm humbled by everything that you say about me. It's unreal. You know what? I've always been in the coaching, training, teaching world since I was 13 years old when I started as an artistic gymnastics teacher. And then I was a high school teacher, and then I went to work for the government. Then in pharmaceutical for Bayer Canada, was in charge of training for some reps there. So I actually can say that I sold drugs. And then and then I worked in the also in the optical environment. And this got me to travel all around the world and give talks all around the world. And that's how at some point I actually told my wife, Stephanie, who I met in one of these events, that you know what? I want to be a professional speaker. And she turned to me, Mike, and she said, well, you already are. That's what you do. You provide motivational speaking to eye care professionals like me all around the world. And I said, no, but I want my message, Mike. I want my message. I want to inspire the world to take action so that they are happy, engaged, motivated. I want people to love their job.
That's really wonderful. I love the way in which you describe yourself. I use three words often to describe myself as coach, mentor, and teacher. And one of the crossovers that we have is that we both worked in the pharmaceutical industry. I worked for some global giants, not Bayer, but other global giants. And I never wanted to get near the drugs because they were scary and dangerous oncology products and other items. So let's talk a little bit about about what it means to follow the Inspire philosophy, or what the Inspire philosophy is.
Well, interesting question, Mike. I could ask you and your listeners right now: can somebody that crosses your path during the day, can that one person influence the course of your day, Mike? For good or for worse?
Oh,
And the
absolutely.
idea,
The answer to that is absolutely.
yeah. So that means that all the people that cross your path, you have the choice to influence their day for
Right.
good or for worse. So it ends up being a question of choice. And the first person that you cross path with on a daily basis is yourself. So what type of influence are you going to have on the course of your own day? Is it going to be for good or for worse? And I find that it's a question of choice. It's unreal. I remember while I was sitting down with my son Justin, the youngest, and we were studying the history of mankind, Homo sapiens, and how Homo sapiens way back then, what got them to live through all these years, what enabled us humans to be here today and survive through all these years. And when you look into literature, what you find is that it's our capacity to create social links. And when I say social links, it's not social media, it's social links. It's connecting to one another. It's telling ourselves stories. It's gossiping. It's creating culture. It's singing. It's dancing. That's what creates the mesh that enables us to survive through the years. And at that point, my son Justin turned to me, Mike, and he said, "Dad, we have a problem." And I said, "Well, what's up, son?" And he said, "Well, if what got us through all the years is the fact that we connect to one another," he said, "most of my friends are inside my headset. I don't know if you have kids that are gamers out there." And so I turned to him and I said, "You're right, Justin." And he turned to me and he said, "What about you, Dad? Where are your friends?" And I'm like, "Justin, don't tell Mike's listeners that I don't have friends." But in a way, I mean, we're being pushed and pulled all day long into what I find a one-man band world where it's everybody on their own. I mean, Mike, I don't know if you're in your part of the world. Not too long ago, I'm going to say 2 years ago, Mike, a virus happened and some people were fighting for toilet paper. I mean, that's how the line is so thin between us and the animal kingdom. Seriously. So it's how can we reconnect to one another? How can we inspire oneself, ourselves, and all the people around us? And that's when, with Justin and the various experience that I have over the past 35 years of coaching, training, teaching, that we came about with 4 not so surprising secrets on how to show up in a day. That's the Inspire story.
Well, that's great. And certainly I would like to dig into those 4 steps. And as we think about the Inspire philosophy based on these principles of interconnectedness. And to your point, it's not about social media, but maybe it's about social lubrication, as I always used to refer to it in working with groups, developing teams, building leaders. I've done a lot of survey guided research, and our HR listeners will know about that. Employee engagement surveys, morale surveys, satisfaction surveys. And often I'd hear executives say, "Well, what does the survey say?" And I would say, "Well, why don't you just get out of your chair and ask people a few questions? You don't need, this other data, this other information. It's helpful, but it's not the complete story. So as you think about engagement and, really about the use of discretionary effort that people have, what are these cornerstones? How do you frame this philosophy, these 4 steps you suggest, Martin Lespérance?
Well, the idea is when you look at the data out there, right now, engagement scores have never been so low. I mean,
They're in the tank.
yeah, they're in the tank. It's around, it's more than 60% of employees out there that are disengaged, and close to 20% that are actively disengaged. Right? So that means that they go to work backwards. I mean, they drive back, they park backwards in the driveway, for safety reason. They just want to get the heck out of there faster at the end of the day.
Yes, and I'll make a shameless plug here for the People Dividend podcast. One of our recent guests was Jim Harder, the chief data science at Gallup for employee research. It's a fascinating story to understand where we are today with employee engagement. So I know that, I'm so grateful that you're extending this work to help all of us think about how to be more engaged. So continue, please, Martin.
Please. So the idea is, how can we then do something about it? And I think we need to go back to basics. And maybe your listeners will say, yeah, but wasn't that a bit simple? And yet in life, sometimes it's very simple to make it complicated, and it's complicated to make it simple. So I did the work, and that's how we came up with the 4 not so surprising secret. And
complex is easy, simple is hard.
Yeah.
So let's get into these secrets.
So the first one is I remember a couple of years ago, my friend JF, we were riding in the car coming back from Quebec City, where I gave a keynote, and he turned to me and he said, "Are you going to do this for the rest of your life? I mean, you're creative. You could do marketing. You coach leadership. You could lead a team." And I turned to him and I said, I'll keep doing that. I've done that my whole life. So I think I'll keep doing it. I love it. And then that's when he turned to me with the 3-letter question, why? Why do I get this fulfillment when this is what I do? I mean, one of the biggest fear out there is public speaking, and I get a thrill out of that. So why do I do this? And that's how I started to search for purpose. And as soon as you uncover this first not so surprising secret, that if you live your why, your purpose, your mission here, and you realize that as soon as you realize that you are there to serve others, serve your colleagues, serve your manager, serve your employees, serve the customers, serve your friends, as soon as you realize that you are there to serve, that's when the fulfillment fills you up. That's when at the end of the day, you get in your car and you drive home and you feel amazing. I mean, I don't know if you have kids, Mike, but for the people out there that have kids, I mean, we've all lost nights of sleep because of kids, but it's worth it because it's for others, because we are there to serve. So that's the first one. Live your why. Does that
Live your
resonate,
why. And
Mike?
it really, it seems that having a purpose really begins with self-awareness, and certainly one of the critical things in leadership. So to understand that purpose, to understand that why. And yes, I do have 2 children. They're launched. They're very successful. And there is, I think any parent in the listening audience will always have a certain worry. And even for those who don't have children, there's so many worries that we carry. We worry about the next meeting. We worry about, how the quarter will turn out. We worry about how we'll perform. So I think by having a sense of why, by having this understanding of who we are, it contributes to a self-awareness that empowers us to think more abundantly in life. Martin.
Right on. I mean, and as soon as the arrow starts pointing outward, I remember this video on YouTube from Katy Perry. She had a song "Fireworks," and the fireworks were coming out of her chest. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And as soon as you realize that this is living your why, as soon as the fireworks come out and they don't come in, they go out, that's when all of a sudden, that's when you get that feeling inside. And that's when I realized that my why is to inspire people to take action so that they are happy, engaged, motivated, so they love their job. That's how I finally put a phrase on it. This is what I do. And this, you know what, is worth it to drive 8 hours to go and give a show and to inspire a group at the other end, because you know what? I'm on a mission. We are on a mission. And that's what I tell the people at the end of the Inspire keynote is, now you've been infected, you've been inspired. You are now a vector of infection. We know how they work now. So you're going out there and you're going to inspire someone right now. So that's the first principle.
It's so great to think about this vector of inspiration and to realize and translate that into ways in which we can create abundance. That I mean, having listened to a lot and coaching executives and coaching others in the C-suite, I've rarely met a person who has a narrow why, that has a narrow purpose. And yet, people don't often fulfill or live out their purpose for lots of different reasons. So let's continue to build on this why and purpose and meaning. So important.
Yeah, and you know what? I find organizations might have their purpose, might have a why, but as soon as the pressure comes in, as soon as you get the headwinds, the why takes aside, and then we look at the numbers, and that's the only thing we end up focusing on.
Right.
And that's when the team just says, "Oh, it's only numbers. It's only numbers."
Right.
Then we forget that there are human beings at the other end that we're enabling. It's as an example from the optical world from my past. It's not lenses that we're selling. It's people that we're supposed to enable to see better. So
Right.
that's the first one. Live your why. The second one, Mike, is to be present. And just the word present, Mike, also means gift. There is no better gift than to be present here, now, in the moment, with the people that are actually there. And the biggest hurdle to that right now is our smartphones. I mean, we are with people live in person, and we spend more time texting and sending pictures on social media to people that are out there. And some might say, our kids, they're so horrible. Yeah. I mean, yeah, kids have grown up with that, but I mean, who do you think they're imitating? I mean, when was the last time you or somebody at the other end now had an argument at home because the use of a smartphone? Like, are you listening to me? Yeah, I am. I'm not texting right now. Yeah. So this is the biggest thing, to be in the moment here now. And another hurdle is not the actual phone. It's the internal voices that we have. And I compare that in the keynote. I tell a story where I went to see Indiana Jones last year with my son.
Right.
And I mean, we grew up with Indiana Jones now. And my son didn't know Indiana Jones. So now it's like I don't know how old he is, but still, he was still very active. And so we get to the movie theater, and now you can pre-book your seats. So center seats in the middle of the room. We're high-fiving. The movie starts. A couple of minutes after, somebody right behind us in the row starts chatting and passing comments. "Oh, I can't believe this is happening. Oh, no, this is not right. Oh, I saw in the other movie he was able to do this and that and that." And then he goes off in a tangent. "After the movie, we really need to go because I need to listen to this new podcast from Mike." And or is your mother still coming for dinner during the weekend? And he kept on going, and I was like, "Can you please?" Anyway, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it in my head. And then the people in the front row, right in front of us, they were like Olympic eater of popcorn, candies, and they had like a soft drink that was the size of a baby pool.
Oh my
and they
goodness. Right.
So, and at some point, I thought to myself, you know what? We are in a movie on a daily basis. You and I, Mike, and all the people listening right now, we are inside a movie. And the person in the back row, passing comments, negative comments, going off on a tangent is not in the back row. They're in our head. And the noise from the front row is also in our head, which is blocking us from actually watching the movie that is happening right now. And if there was a crew following you 24 hours a day with a camera and sound, would you act the same way? Would you talk this way? I mean, how would you enact your movie? Would you make it a masterpiece, or would you make it a B movie? So you would be present. So that's key.
Presence is such an important aspect of leadership and executive work. And I think all too often, presence gets neglected because we're thinking about the next point we're going to make, or we're thinking about, then and there. So it's a gift that I certainly bring in my work. What I think about how I describe my work is that I'm bringing hope, I'm bringing presence, I'm bringing discernment, helping people figure out what's work and what's not work. And perhaps that translates to the first principle you mentioned about purpose and living your why. So it's so nice to see this build and this construction into presence, from purpose to presence.
Then it brings us to, and this not so surprising secret, Mike, came from, I went to the restaurant with my son. You know, those breakfast restaurants, they have two sets of front doors. In Canada, we have two sets of front doors because it gets cold in the winter.
Too cold,
so,
right.
So I open up the front door and Justin goes in. And of course, the bus of people is walking out of the restaurant as I'm holding the door. So what do? I hold the door. I hold the door. I keep holding the door. If you're looking for me during the weekend, Mike, I'm at the breakfast restaurant holding the door. So
Right.
out of the 10 people that came out, how many out of the 10 either gave me a smile or a thank you? How many of the 10?
8 out of 10.
Mike, I want to go and live in your neighborhood, my friend. It's actually one person out of 10 that gave me a smile. And I turned to this man and I said, you know what? That wasn't the reason I was doing it for, but your smile is warming my heart right now. And he turned to me and he had a big smile and he was all happy. You should have seen the other 9 people in line. They were looking at me saying like, well, what? You're just holding the door. I mean, people, they a lot of people take things for granted right now. And the third not so surprising secret is to be grateful, to show gratitude. And I don't know when it happened, Mike. Maybe I was on a trip somewhere, but gratitude is out the door now. It doesn't happen anymore. See, and it's the small stuff around us. And as soon as you start throwing gratitude around you, it has a huge boomerang effect and it comes back to you. And I'm not saying throw it out there to get it back, but at least test it. You'll see. And of course, showing gratitude with other people is the key. But the
Absolutely.
first
One of the
person,
things I learned from two of my teachers, Fred Miller and Judith Katz, who are, they wrote a book probably 55 years ago now called The Inclusion Breakthrough. And one of the important lessons from that is that, perhaps our oldest and greatest technology is the ability just to say hello to someone else. And makes me think about or reconsider your comments around gratitude. We're leading with this big why. We've discovered our purpose. We're able to present that, to be present with that in the world, and to be grateful not only for what we've learned ourselves or what we've discovered on our own journey, but to be grateful for the environment and others around us. Well, keep going, Martin, with those ideas, please.
Right. And right on. I mean, and the person you talk to the most, on a daily basis, and I'm going to say most of the listeners out there right now, who do you talk to the most in a day? And you could mention your friend, your spouse, your kids, your colleagues. No, it's yourself. If
Right.
I'm still looking for somebody that doesn't talk to themselves. And if you are as creative as I am, do you always tell yourself beautiful things in there? Or
Yeah, I always
sometimes
think that,
are you
it's not so bad if you're talking out loud to yourself while you're watching television. The worry comes if you think it starts talking back to you. That's the worry. But certainly we want that engagement with others, with our colleagues. We do want dialogue. We want feedback. We want to feel that we're noticed and that we're important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Mike, gratitude, of course, can be an attitude with the people around you. Gratitude starts with yourself. You got
I
to
love
be
that.
grateful
Gratitude is
to
an
what you're
attitude.
doing. Yeah, gratitude is an attitude, man. Seriously. And I mean, it's hashtag gratitude is an attitude, seriously. And yet at the same time, sometimes the question I often ask the participants during the keynote is, would you talk to others like you talk to yourself? And the answer I hear all the time is no. And somebody not too long ago in a show in Phoenix raised their hand and said, if I was to talk to others like I talk to myself, I wouldn't have any friends. And well, there you go. I mean, gratitude is an attitude and it starts with you. Be grateful to who you are. We can't do it right the first time. Nobody is perfect. I mean, I checked on Google. I checked on ChatGPT. Nobody was ever perfect yet. And I'm
Yes.
sorry to say, maybe I'm announcing it on your show, Mike. It's not going to be you and me that will be the two first perfect people out there.
Right.
So give yourself a break.
Yeah, what I always think about and what I always encourage, and this comes from the training I've done in PQ coaching, positive intelligence coaching, is that there's good and bad in every situation. And you may not realize that, given some, calamity or something that, but it's the attitude of knowing that there is something to be gained from every situation, to live out, at least for me, my humanistic values, that to find, to treat everyone with respect and dignity. And I think that helps to inform this gratitude attitude that you talk about as we move from purpose, presence, gratitude. It's really a wonderful building combination.
And this all leads to the fourth and not so surprising secret, which is, I always say it's my favorite, but there are only four. So I mean, it's easy to have a favorite out of four, but it's have fun. I mean, Can we at least have fun while we're doing this? And this we've heard and we say it so often. Life goes by fast. Time flies. Life is short. And yet life can be very long if you're not having fun. I mean,
it's certainly a framework to consider, isn't it? I mean, I think about, a lot of times I'm dealing with people who are in transition. They have a long-term behavioral goal that they want to achieve. And I think we've been hoodwinked in some ways to think that, learning is always fun. What I've noticed mostly about learning is that it's filled with a lot of anxiety, a lot of guilt, and it's tough. But to embrace it, as not a game, but to embrace it as an approach to living into life certainly puts a whole different perspective on it, Martin.
Definitely. And I mean, that's when it comes a choice of attitude. what attitude are you going to choose? That's something yet you can choose on a daily basis. It's how you're going to face the events that are being thrown at you. Some of the events we don't choose, and I get that. The reaction that we have and the view that we make out of it, we can always decide to have fun with it. I know it. And that doesn't mean that we become a clown and that everything becomes that we fool around, but we can accept that freedom will probably create an environment where people feel safe and that it's okay to make mistakes. But at the end of it, let's enjoy the journey, because it's sometimes we aim for something. I just can't wait to get there, and even a corporate objective, we need to get there. Yeah, while we get there, can we at least enjoy the journey? Right now, I have partners with me that we're writing the Inspire book right now, and we were discussing right before our meeting today, when would be our launch date and everything. So I was there. I can't wait for that day. And at some point I said, no, wait, I shouldn't say that. Of course, I can't wait for that day, but I'm going to savor every day until we get there, because let's have fun while we reach that audacious goal, that dream. And that's when you realize that it's the sum of all these small choices that will enable you to become who you are, that will also design what you become, and that will define the color of your adventure. It's the sum of all these small choices. This is what makes us up. With the compound effect, will define who you are, who you become, and the color of your adventure.
You've made me think about the launch of my most recent book, Integrity by Design, Working and Living Authentically. And what I love about what you've done, Martin Lespérance, is you have made the complex simple. You do it in such an elegant way with the Inspire philosophy. These four blocks, I don't want to call them building blocks, but these four ways of thinking about discovering your why, discovering your purpose, living out that purpose, around working through a gratitude attitude, about social connection. All of these elements, I mean, really add to the important topic of engagement. And these are engagement strengtheners, aren't they?
It's unreal. I mean, when I go inside organizations, when they call me up and they're going through either change management, stress management, or just when they want to congratulate the team or they want to throw an audacious goal in front of them, I go in, we talk about this. Of course, we relate it to their world, depending on what they do. And at the end, I used to get handshakes before coming at the end saying, oh, thanks. That was a good show. I really enjoyed that. Now I have people coming and see me at the end of the show, Mike, and they give me hugs. They give me hugs saying, I needed that. I needed to go back to the basics. And you know what? And of course, they also say you are the best speaker ever. But no, I'm joking. But the idea is that they come to me and they say, now it makes sense. At the beginning of the school year, I did this with a high school not too far from the house. And one of the teachers I know is a friend, came to see me the day after, and he said, you know what you just did? I said, no, please tell me. Did I do something wrong? He said, no. His best friend, who is also a high school teacher, was about to let go, to quit, to move on. And he went to him and he said, you know what? This guy just gave me the fuel to get through the next year. And this to me is the best feedback I can get. This is what I want to do. I want people to realize that whatever they're doing, and some it's production work, but realizing that you're actually serving more than just the piece of either furniture that is in front of you, or the widget that you're moving forward. And it's the same thing with leaders out there, where they're leading teams in front of them. As soon as you become an inspiring leader, your team is just will probably stick around. I mean, if we talk a lot about engagement. I mean, why do people leave organizations? It's not because the lack of purpose and lack of why. I'm working with some other colleagues on creating that story right now, and it's because of the toxic environment. And how can you get rid of that toxic environment? Use the not so surprising secret that we just talked about, apply that inside your culture, and all of a sudden you'll see how people not only stick around, but bring more people to join in, become advocates, ambassadors.
So one of the assessment criteria I use when taking on new clients is about the balance between self-interest and service to others. I think there's such an important distinction. And Martin, if you were, just as we begin to wrap up, if you were to offer our listeners, one or two pieces of advice that they could carry through 2024, what would those one or two pieces of advice be?
I mean, the first one that and the biggest one, Mike, is you need to realize that on a daily basis, you are making choices. You are making choices. And you need to raise the accountability inside inside your chest, inside your heart, and realize that you are making that choice. You can choose to be grateful. You can choose to be present. You can choose to live and to discover your why and relate what you're doing on a daily basis to the why of the organization. You can choose to have fun. You can also choose to have the worst day ever. It's a question of choice. And that choice, and that's why, I mean, it's in the title of my show, Inspire. It's your choice. I mean, and it could have been the title, and it could have been It's Your Choice, because the key at the end is you are making it, not me, not you. It's each person needs to decide.
I love your framework, Martin Lespérance. It's been an absolute delight. I mean, to have you on the People Dividend podcast, and so important. I always present 4 frameworks to clients and prospects. I mean, and one of them is it inspiring? Is it inspiring? Is it meaningful? Is it relevant? Is it practical? And I think you hit on all 4 of those pieces of guidance. Inspiring, meaningful, practical, relevant work. And I'm so grateful that you're in the world putting out this message to inspire positive action, happiness, and motivation in individuals and organizations. Martin, it's been an absolute delight to have you as a guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I mean, we are on a mission. Let's inspire the world together, my friend.
Yeah, and everyone, please follow the show notes. You'll find more about Martin Lespérance, but please visit him as well at martinlesperance.ca. You'll find it in the show notes. And until the next episode of the People Dividend podcast, stay well.